Before there was Zimbabwe, before there was Rhodesia, and long before Europeans set foot in southern Africa, this land was the heart of one of the continent's greatest civilizations. It was called the Great Zimbabwe State. For centuries, its story was dismissed, its origins debated, and its achievements downplayed. But the stones remember. This is the story of how Great Zimbabwe rose to power, how its people thrived, and why this magnificent city was eventually abandoned. To truly understand the nation of Zimbabwe today, we have to start here with the houses of stone. Between the years 1100 and 1450, a remarkable society flourished. The name Zimbabwe itself comes from the Shona words, Jimba Dizamabu, which translates to houses of stone. This wasn't a metaphor. It was a literal description of a breathtaking stone city, built without any mortar, using granite blocks that were cut and shaped with incredible precision. The people who built it were the ancestors of today's Shona people. They didn't appear overnight. This was a civilization that grew organically over generations, with each one adding to the legacy of the last, slowly transforming a settlement into the capital of a powerful state. Location is everything, and Great Zimbabwe was perfectly placed. The region offered a winning combination of fertile land for farming, reliable rainfall, and expansive grasslands for cattle grazing. Crucially, it was also near rich gold deposits. This unique geography allowed the area to sustain a huge population. At its peak, historians estimate that between 10,000 and 20,000 people lived within its walls and the surrounding valleys. To put that in perspective, this made it one of the largest and most significant urban centers in all of southern Africa during its time. It was a bustling metropolis, alive with activity. So, who was in charge? Great Zimbabwe was a highly centralized state, led by a king who held immense power. But he wasn't just a political ruler. He was also the nation's chief spiritual guide. It was believed he ruled with the full blessing and support of the ancestral spirits. The king controlled the land, managed the vast herds of cattle, oversaw all trade and the collection of tribute, and maintained law and order. His residence was set apart in the hill complex, a fortified area built on high ground. This physical separation wasn't just for defense. It was a powerful symbol of his sacred authority and his unique connection to the spiritual world. Below him, a network of local leaders governed villages, collecting tribute in the form of grain, cattle, or labor, ensuring that power flowed smoothly from the center to the very edges of the kingdom. Of course, you can't talk about Great Zimbabwe without talking about its incredible stone architecture. The ruins are divided into three main areas. First, there's the hill complex, the spiritual and royal heart of the city. Then you have the breathtaking Great Enclosure, which is the largest single ancient stone structure in all of sub-Saharan Africa. And finally, there are the valley ruins, which were once the homes and administrative hubs for the city's residents. The skill involved is just staggering. The builders shaped each stone with care and stacked them without any binding material, creating walls that had stood for centuries. This architecture is undeniable proof of a society with advanced planning, a highly organized workforce, and strong, visionary leadership. The economy of Great Zimbabwe was just as impressive as its walls. It was strong, diverse, and self-sufficient. At its foundation was agriculture. Farmers grew crops like sorghum and millet, producing enough food to feed the large population with a surplus left over. But cattle were the true measure of wealth. They were more than just livestock. They were a source of social and political power, used in marriage negotiations and as a symbol of status. The king's authority was directly tied to the size of his herds. And then there was gold. Gold was the engine of Great Zimbabwe's economy. Mined from nearby reefs, it was processed and traded, bringing immense wealth and influence to the state. This wealth connected Great Zimbabwe to the rest of the world. The state was not an isolated kingdom. It was a key player in a vast, long-distance trade network that stretched from southern Africa. up the East African coast and across the Indian Ocean. They traded their gold, ivory, and animal skins for luxury goods from distant lands. Archaeologists have unearthed incredible artifacts within the city walls: vibrant glass beads, fine cloth, elegant porcelain from China, coins from Arabia, and glassware from Persia. These discoveries are concrete proof that Great Zimbabwe was engaged in global trade with Asia and the Middle East long before the first European ships rounded the Cape of Good Hope. What was daily life like for the people who lived there? Society was clearly structured. At the top was the king and the royal family, followed by nobles and religious leaders. Below them were the skilled artisans, the potters, blacksmiths, and masons, and finally the farmers and herders who formed the backbone of the economy. While the elites lived in or near the impressive stone enclosures, most people lived in well-constructed huts made of daga, a mixture of clay and gravel. It was a community filled with craft and skill. People created beautiful pottery, forged iron tools and weapons, and crafted intricate jewelry. Children learned these vital skills from their elders, not in a formal school, but through observation and hands-on practice, passing traditions down through generations. Religion was woven into the very fabric of life. The people of Great Zimbabwe believed in a supreme creator god known as Mari. They also revered ancestral spirits, who they believed watched over the living, offering guidance and protection. Spirit mediums played a crucial role, acting as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds, relaying messages between the people, the ancestors, and the king himself. This connection between politics and faith is perfectly captured by the famous Zimbabwe birds. These 8 soapstone sculptures, found in the ruins, are believed to symbolize royal power and the sacred link between the ruler and the spiritual realm. Religion wasn't separate from the state. It was the foundation that supported the entire social and political order. So why did this magnificent civilization decline? By the mid-1400s, Great Zimbabwe's power began to fade. There wasn't one single cause, but likely a combination of factors. Decades of intense farming and grazing may have led to environmental stress over grazing. Deforestation and soil exhaustion could have made it harder to support the large population. At the same time, the global economy was shifting. Trade routes began to move, favoring new centers of power that emerged to the north and south. As resources dwindled and trade shifted away, people began to migrate, but they didn't just disappear. They moved on and founded new, powerful states, like the Mutapa State and the Rosvi State. The spirit and legacy of Great Zimbabwe lived on through them. In conclusion, Great Zimbabwe was a powerful and sophisticated African civilization. It had advanced architecture, a complex social structure, strong leadership, a booming economy, deep spiritual beliefs, and connections to the wider world. Its story is a powerful reminder that complex societies, with government, trade, and culture, thrived in Africa long before the colonial era. The history of this land did not begin with the arrival of Europeans. It began here, in the great houses of stone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please like, subscribe, and follow for more stories from history.